Hi everyone, I'm Hayley. I'm always in the craft room, but soon I will be sunning myself in Spain on a glorious family holiday and I cannot wait. That said, my mind is just spinning with loads of projects that I want to do and get sorted before we go, things I want to wear on holiday, things I want to wear as we're traveling. And I wondered, since I have the whole afternoon ahead of me to sew, if you fancy coming along for a bit of a hectic vlog. So I was being very organised today and I thought I'd wear an outfit that I am going to recreate. The trousers are Vogue 8784 and I have modified them quite a lot to fit me and I am now super happy with the fit. So I'd like another pair of those. We've got a ready-to-wear swimsuit that needs altering. Who knows what's going to happen? Let's go to the cutting table. I was just putting away the scraps from cutting out my trousers and I realised I have just enough to cut a pattern scalp Flora top. I mean, not quite, but if I reduce the seam allowances or mess with these little pleats along the top, I will. I will have to cut it on the cross grain and I will have to seam the back because that is supposed to be cut on the fold. I don't mind a centre back seam on there. So I am going to quickly get that cut out. I am not going to sew it now because I don't envisage taking it on holiday. But while I've got the pattern out, I'm going to do that. Hello. Well, as you can see, it's a new day. And after I spoke to you last, I did indeed get the trousers cut out. They are going to be made from this lovely viscose twill with gold flowers on that I got a few years ago from Rainbow Fabrics. So they are all ready, but the machines are threaded navy. So I'm going to work on the trousers first. Oh, hi, I'm Hayley and I'm a big fat liar. I have started on the Flora top because there are just so many notches to mark for the pleats to get sewn that I thought it would be better rather than putting it away to just get the pleats sewn. So I'm going to do the pleats front and back, stay stitch along the top to keep them all in place, and then that will be that for this project today. But so far, absolutely loving it. I have pieced this fabric for the back because it wasn't wide enough to cut on the fold, but I thought it would look better if instead of there was a centre front seam, I lined it up with one of the pleats. So I think I've worked this out correctly, that the notch goes next to the overlocking. I'm going to cut this out, sew that pleat and see if I've figured it all out right. Honestly, not sure. It's not right. It's not right. Crisis averted though. I've just had a good think about it, and this notch goes to this notch for a pleat. This notch goes to this notch for a pleat. The highlight is worn off because there's tape there. And these two go together, not that notch and that notch. There isn't a pleat at the centre back. It's flat. So this is wrong. However, that pleat is the right depth. So maybe I sew it and then move things along so that, oh God. Why do I do this to myself? A normal person would have just got rid of this scrap. Okay, I did figure it out, and the only way to do it was single layer. Forget about the fold. So this is the center back, and this should hopefully get concealed within that pleat, I think. I have finished the back bodice and I'm pleased to report that I did manage to hide the seam. If you know where to look, you can spot it in one of those pleats, but at least it is not a front and center at the back. The way I originally had it, you would have seen it right there in the middle. So how cute and swishy is that? I've stay stitched front and back bodices, and I have sewn the darts on the front bodice as well. So that's as far as I'm going to go with that. I am going to get on with the trousers now. If you've never tried a pattern scout pattern, I would highly recommend. I absolutely love the Flora top. I keep meaning to make a dress, but I've never got round to it. But the pattern is out now, so who knows? Right, the trousers. The first step in the Vogue pattern is to do the buttonholes, because it has a drawstring at the front, and you mark the buttonholes so those the very first thing. I've done that on my previous two pairs, and I am quite a careful marker. I try to be a very precise sewer, and yet on both pairs, by the time I've sewn the front up and turned the waistband to the front, they're not in line. One is slightly higher than the other. So what I'm going to do instead is construct each trouser leg completely and then do the buttonholes, so that I can be sure there's one either side of the centre front seam exactly in line. I know it will be a tiny bit more difficult to get it under the presser foot and everything with the legs attached, but overall I do think it's worth it, because it does drive me a bit mad that they're not exactly level. So I guess there's no prep work to do then, because normally I'd do the interfacing first. Just going to get straight in and sew those trouser legs. I'm sorry if I sound a bit bunged up. You can probably tell from looking at me. I'm not feeling the best today, but I have to tell you, that was such an enjoyable, relaxing sew. I know I said this video was going to be hectic, and it is hectic in that I keep flitting from project to project, but I'm not a fast sewer. I really enjoy the whole process so much. I like to take my time, press everything carefully, and sewing all those pleats is just so meditative and relaxing. I absolutely love the Flora pattern. Right, onto the trousers. I decided I'd better sew up the side seams, because due to a fabric shortage, I had reduced the seam allowances to 6mm instead of the 1.5 centimetres that the pattern normally has. And I thought, if I put it away, and even if I left a note on it or something, I might forget or not see the note. So I thought I'd just sew up the side seams, and therefore I can quickly try it on. And absolutely loving what I can see so far. I can't believe I just thought to cut this out of those scraps. I'm absolutely thrilled, and I think it looks really nice with these trousers. So I did have a panic, because if I have one toxic trait, it is cutting things out of scraps and forgetting about neckbands, straps, all of the like extra little bits. I see a front bodice and a back bodice and I'm like, woo, I can do it, and forget about all the extras. But thankfully I have looked, and I have got enough to do the wide straps, and there will be a join. So now I'm going to get on with the trousers. And do you know what reminded me to sew these side seams was the trousers, because on that pattern, it's a Vogue pattern, so all of the seams are 1.5 centimeters, and in order to fit it on a folded width of fabric in my size, I've trimmed the paper pattern down to 6mm seam allowances. So I remembered with the trousers, I was like, must remember to say that a 6mm seam allowance, and then I thought, you know what, same with the top. So I'm gonna now whip up the trousers, and because I've only got a 6mm seam allowance, it's even quicker because I just do it straight on the overlocker. Hi everyone, it's a few days later and it's time for a bit of an update. I've not been vlogging because I lost my voice there for a bit. I've had a really sore throat and I've not been feeling 100%, but it wasn't one of those like take to my bed kind of illnesses. I was resting a lot on the sofa and reading my book, and each day I did manage to nip over here and just get a small thing done. So one day I came and just sewed the trouser legs outside edges together. The next day I sewed the inside legs together. The next day I turned one inside out, put one inside the other, and sewed the crotch seam. And then my trousers were virtually done. And honestly, I know I've said this before, but drawstring pull-on trousers are so quick to make once you've got the fitting down. And this is pair number 3 for me. So With the trousers basically constructed, I was ready to do the buttonholes. And I think I mentioned earlier that I didn't like the way the instructions had you do it as the very first step of the process. So I left it until later, because here is the first pair of these trousers that I made. And can you see that one buttonhole is much higher than the other? I know no one would ever notice, but it really bugs me. And they really are, they're quite different on this pair. So on my second pair, the black pair, I paid much more attention to closely marking everything and being really, really pedantic about it. And exactly the same thing happened. One of them is right at the top of the casing, and one of them is much lower. Hopefully you can see that black on black. So on this pair, what I decided to do was wait until the front was constructed, the centre front seam, and then do the buttonholes. I understand why they have you do it first. It is easier to get the fabric under the machine and control everything before the trousers are constructed. But yeah, I knew on a loose fitting pair of trousers there would be enough of an opening for me to get it under the machine foot and do my buttonholes when the centre fronts were joined. That said, still not perfect. You know what? I'm looking at it now. Pretty good there, Hayley, pretty good. So what I was trying to do was just get them level with each other and the same distance down from the top of this casing and up from the bottom. And actually, now I look at it, I was really disappointed when I did it because I thought they were still very different, but they're really not. Oh, sleeping on things always makes it better, doesn't it? I'm really pleased with that. So a much better result from doing it my way. The other thing I don't like about the Vogue instructions, and I'm sorry if you love the Big Four, I know I always have a rant about their instructions, but the very first thing they have you do before you do the buttonholes is cut a square of self fabric and baste it around where you're going to do the buttonhole. At no point in the instructions does it ever tell you to remove the basting stitches or what to do with the bit of fabric that's now behind it. I would probably trim it close to it with pinking shears so that there wasn't too much shadowing through, but I don't know. Fusible interfacing has been invented, Vogue. Why can't we just use that? I don't want to poke more needle holes in my fabric than I have to, especially because this is a viscose twill. And I don't know if you've ever had this with viscose, where needle marks can make a little pull across the fabric. Now, actually, it hasn't been an issue with this at all, but it was the very first step in the instructions. So how was I to know whether it was going to be a problem? Anyway, I just fused a tiny square of fusible interfacing behind my buttonhole, and that seems a lot easier to me. For the drawstring, I have previously used self fabric, and I would have with this until I actually came to do it. I've saved a scrap here to show you, and I will try not to jog the camera. I didn't want to because this fabric is like a foil kind of printed on it. And I'll try and show you that as you fold the fabric, can you see the shadowing from the foil? It affects the drape of the fabric because it makes it stiff just where it's got the gold on it. And you can actually see it through, but also you just get the shadowing of the change in texture. So I didn't want to use this fabric inside out. I didn't want to use it right side out. I just thought that would look weird on a drawstring. So yeah, I ruled out using self fabric. I did have a look in the remnants drawer and I found a navy. In fact, now I think about it, it's the scraps from my first pair, but it's a different navy. It's more of a French navy. So I didn't love that look either. So I kind of hunted around the craft room, and what I found was a ball of yarn, t-shirt yarn that I had made. So I years ago bought a viscose fabric, a viscose knit that turned out to be way too lightweight for t-shirts, but I didn't know what I didn't know. So I turned it into t-shirt yarn, and I've used it to make loads of crochet projects, and I just had a small ball left, and I thought the navy matched really well. So I have sewn that to the ends of the elastic. Getting the elastic in these buttonholes was quite a challenge for my poor little hands. However, I much prefer threading elastic through a buttonhole and out than leaving a gap in the casing. I find leaving a gap in the casing really annoying. I don't know why it bothers me so much, but it really does. And I love that if at any point I decide I need to alter this elastic, I can pull it out through here and not have to re-sew anything or unpick anything. So I do like the flexibility that gives you. Anyway, all that to say, buttonholes done, waistband casing all sewn, and I did just overlock the edge, flip it down and stitch it down, top stitch it. I prefer that than folding the raw edge under because I think it just leaves less bulk, and especially where you've got gathering, I don't think that bulk helps at all. So I prefer that finish. And then I hemmed them. I just did a double turned 1-inch hem. I did wonder afterwards if I should have maybe hand sewn that. I just top stitched it. And I think these are giving me fancy pants vibes because of the gold, but actually they are a casual pair of trousers. And there is a lot of top stitching around the waistband, which I did as per the pattern, 1 row at 6mm up and down. In fact, there are 2 rows at the bottom. So there is quite a lot of top stitching on them. So I think it's fine. Anyway, you can hear my voice isn't quite right, can't you? The trousers are completely finished. I've tried them on and I love them. But we can't leave the Flora top in the state it's in. It is so close to finished. This top has taught me a very important lesson. So I made some straps using the pattern pieces that come with the Flora, and I didn't even have to piece them, I'm pleased to report. I had enough fabric left. And then I pinned them on and wore it around the house for an afternoon to see if I'd got them the right length. I measured the length of my previous pink Flora top. And you may know if you watch my Friday sews, I've been back in a few times and shortened those straps because they just kept falling off my shoulders, which was driving me mad. These are the exact same length as the Floras. And when I wore it around the house the afternoon, it was perfect. They didn't fall off my shoulders once. And I realised something I had never appreciated, and I'm so pleased I did. What makes a lot of difference to shoulder straps is not just how long they are, but how close in they sit. These are not falling off because they're closer together. So I'm so pleased I've figured that out. I may go back and move the pink ones because these are a full centimetre on each side, so 2 centimetres closer together than on the pink one, and it's completely eliminated the falling off the shoulder problem. And the pink one does still fall off my shoulder, but I couldn't take it up anymore because it was going to start lifting it too high under the arms and things. So I'm so pleased I've worked out what was wrong with that. So these are now in the right place. I'm just going to try them on with a couple of different bras because obviously the day I wore it around the house I was only wearing 1 bra. So I've brought a selection of bras over. I'm going to try them on, make sure they really are in the right place. And then the instructions for the pattern Scout Flora are to make self-bias binding to finish this top edge. Because of the gold foil, meaning that you can't get a crisp fold on that fabric, I'm not going to use self fabric. I'm actually going to use this because I had enough of it. It's not a perfect colour match, but all of the binding is turned completely to the inside on this, so you shouldn't see it. And on the off chance, you know, there's a tiny bit poking out, it's very, very similar. So I'm going to get on and make the bias binding for that. The bias binding is done, and I was just checking that I've got enough. Yes, it goes all the way around, so that should be sufficient. I did have to piece it in one place. I used my little 18mm bias binder maker, and here's a top tip for you. If, like me, you have a lot of rulers hanging around in your craft room, check how wide they are. Because if I'm making 18mm bias binding, I know I can draw down either side of this ruler with chalk, cut, and it's the perfect width to go through. So must never lose that ruler. It's my favourite. Right, I'm going to check the straps are in the right place and get the binding sewn on. Okay, I've got the binding sewn on and pressed down to the inside. So pleased with how this is looking. And I do think I've covered all my bra straps. I'm going to hand sew this binding down. I just don't want to interrupt the top edge with any top stitching. I think this is going to be quite a fancy top for me. It's a bit of a going out top, the combination of the style and the fabric. So that will be a nice, relaxing, mindful task to just sew that binding all the way around, and then it's done. So I did sit down to hand sew this top, and when I looked closely at the weave of the fabric, I decided it was just too fine of a weave to hand sew without it being visible from the front of the garment. So those of you who are squeamish about sewing shortcuts, please look away now, because you can see what I decided to do instead. I used that fusible hemming tape that people who can't sew use for their curtains and trouser legs, and I actually think that has given a beautiful finish from the outside. I'm not sure how well it will hold up because I've never tried it before, but I really did think this was the best way to achieve what I wanted to achieve, which was the binding fully attached but also invisible from the front. Do let me know if you have better ideas for me. I would love to hear. Well, I've tidied myself up and I've tidied the craft room up, which just feels so much better. And I'm here to show you my finished trousers. I absolutely love them. I honestly can't tell you how pleased I am with just how they look in this fabric. I was really struggling with what to do with this, and when it came to me, I just knew, and I think they're fabulous. My only reservation is whether this knit drawstring is strong enough to hold them up. But you know, that's really easy to change if I need to. I'm pleased with the fit, but mostly I'm just pleased with how useful they'll be on holiday. So I'm going to show you how they look with a few other bits and pieces. So one of the reasons I especially wanted to get these finished for my holiday was so I could wear them with my swimsuit, which of course is navy. So first thing in the morning when I'm abroad, I just slather myself in factor 50. If I try and put it on later in the day, say when I get to the pool and I'm trying to get under straps and things, I always miss one little bit and get burnt. So I just do it before I even get dressed. So I will get up, put my sun cream on, pull my swimming costume on, but then I need to like see to the kids, get breakfast, get a cup of coffee. So I thought these would just be perfect for mornings around the villa, or, you know, if I've got out the pool, dried off, and I want to sit and have some lunch or something. Oh, I absolutely love them. Now, we do need to talk about the swimsuit. It is a ready to wear one. I think it's DKNY. I got it at TK Maxx and I bought two of them. I bought this one and also an olive green colour, identical. And if you were watching my channel last year, I came back from my summer holiday and reported that I was very pleased with the swimsuits overall and felt they were great quality, but they're too long in the torso for me. You can probably see, I have proportionately a very short torso and very long legs. And as a result, this really nice quality, fully lined, thick and heavy swimsuit soaks up water. And when I get out of the pool, because the torso of the suit is longer than my torso, it droops. And yeah, I was conscious of it last year, didn't like it. I actually think it could compromise my modesty. It was hanging down that low. So what I would like to do is turn this into a tankini. I bought swimsuit elastic last time I was in London at McCulloch and Wallace. The machines are threaded navy. So today is the day I'm going to get on with it. What I'm going to do, I think, is compare this to my standard underwear pattern. And basically, I'm going to work it out based on the bottom half. I'm going to get the knicker element right. And then however long the top ends up is however long the top ends up. I'm going to watch some tutorials. I'm going to look up Liz Sews, who makes loads of lingerie and swimwear. I'm hoping she'll be able to tell me how I should attach the swimwear elastic, because I'm not sure whether to do it on the right side or the wrong side, etc. And if the top does end up a bit shorter than I wanted, instead of hemming it, I thought I could get some navy fold over elastic maybe. I don't know. Cross that bridge when we come to it. But yeah, I'm not going to be vlogging the process because this vlog is long enough already, but I will update you as to how it goes. And if it works on the navy suit, I'm going to wear it to the local pool and check. I will do it on the green suit as well. But we had to have a look at the whole ensemble together, didn't we? What do you think? I don't know if I'm on board, to be honest. I know that Co-ord suits are like all the rage at the moment on the high street and in the sewing community. I just feel a bit like I'm wearing pajamas. I have a feeling that I will catch on in like 5 years. I'll be fully on board with the Co-ord and they won't be fashionable anymore. So maybe I'll meet you there. But in the meantime, I just don't know. But time will tell. We'll see if I wear them together. As Co-ord sets go, I think it's a nice one. But yeah, I'm just not sure. I will show you how I do intend to style this top though. So here's how I actually probably would wear this top. I've got ready to wear white jeans on and some espadrilles. I don't think I'm going to take this on holiday because I tend to pack light, and I think in Spain at this time of year jeans will just be too hot to wear. But I think this will be lovely for the British summer. So that is my Vogue trousers and Pattern Scout Flora top. I hope you enjoyed following me along on this little vlog where we got a bonus top from the remnants, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.